Hey, welcome, friend. This is Your Enneagram Coach, the podcast, and I'm Beth McCord, your Enneagram Coach. And at YEC, we're passionate about unlocking the transformative power of the Enneagram from a Christian perspective to enrich your life and relationships. We do this with lots of engaging podcasts, insightful books, and dynamic courses. You can find all of that at yourenneagramcoach.com. Now, with these tools, we provide you with many resources that you'll need for the lasting growth and change that you are looking for. We also train exceptional Enneagram coaches who are well equipped to guide you on your journey in your personal and relational growth. You can find a coach today at myenneagramcoach.com. But if you're an Enneagram enthusiast who loves learning and talking all things Enneagram, then you should consider becoming an Enneagram coach and take our training. Now, to get a free taste of our training, just watch our mini course. You can see it at yourenneagramcoach.com/mini course. Now, in today's episode is going to be quite the treat because I'm giving you an exclusive peek into a real Enneagram coaching session with a specific type. Whether you're listening in or watching on our YouTube channel, you'll get to see an actual coaching session unfold right before your eyes. I know many of you are learning about the Enneagram through books and blogs and podcasts, but you probably haven't had the chance to see a real live coaching session. Well, today is that day because I thought, this would be a perfect time for you to experience what it's actually like. So I put a call out to see who would volunteer to be excited to be coached by me and to take you through one of our YEC guide sheets. And the response was incredible. So many people came out of the woodworks, and it was hard to pick just 9 because we're going to take you through all 9 types over the course of 9 weeks, but I did choose one from each type. So, in these episodes, I'm going to walk you through each type's initial coaching session, the same one that I teach our coaches to take their clients through, because these guide sheets are packed with valuable insights about that person's type, but more importantly, will help the person to go beyond just understanding the Enneagram and know how to apply it to their everyday lives, which you're going to see that today. Well, hey, Greg, it's so fun to see you, and I can't wait to take you through this guide sheet number 1. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing really well. Things
Good,
are going well.
good. Well, I'm sure we can unpack quite a bit in the first guide sheet, so we'll get to kind of see different highs and lows, and just really kind of focus in on a particular part or circumstance or situation that you're feeling stuck in or struggling with. And then what I'll do is I'll try to bring the insights we're going through in the guide sheet, and we'll weave that in and out. And by the end, my suspicion and what I see usually is that people have new aha moments and new ideas of how to move forward that either they had considered in the past or it's totally new. But either way, they're feeling a little bit more freedom. They're feeling like they've got, like a new path or a healthier path to walk down. And that's really what, my goal is for you today. Does that sound good?
That sounds terrific.
Okay. So on the guide sheet, it's on the screen right now, and people want to watch on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, they'll see it. But so what we have here is 5 words for the type 4 that walk you through kind of the healthy to the less healthy aspects. So I know that we had talked earlier, and you said that you would prefer to read, which is great. So if you can read those, and then when you're done, tell me which words stood out the most to you and why. And it can be several of them, positive, negatives, whatever. What really struck a chord in you?
All right. The romantic individualist, authentic, creative, expressive, deep, temperamental. So for me, well, all of those are true, but what jumps out at me today is the
Mhm.
creative. Um, because I am immersed in creating for my work. So creating new trainings that have not been done before, and just came back from a weekend where I did training at an adoption and foster conference,
Mm.
and 2 trainings that that came out of me and my experience and interwove different aspects together into something new and hopefully helpful for the people who showed up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, because even just kind of reading about your bio and the things that you've gone through and then bringing that into the lives of others, I'm positive they were very, uh, influenced and benefit from it. Okay, was there any other words that popped up?
Um, one of the words that caught my attention was temperamental. I said,
Uh-huh.
"What does that mean, temperamental?" And I'm going, "Oh, temperamental, as in you're going along fine, and something happens, and boom, you are going in a different direction." Yeah, that's me. I can be, especially years past, I can be doing really
Mhm.
well, and something bad happens, and I'll just sit in the yuck.
Mm.
Um, and
Yeah.
it can happen the other way too, that something good happens. But I
Yeah.
remember being, well, and then just plummeting and just wallowing around in that and making everybody around me miserable.
Yeah, and would you say that other people might use the word, "You're being temperamental," or would they use a different word, in those times?
That's interesting. That's one of the words that nobody has ever used for me about being
Okay, yeah,
temperamental.
yeah,
But
interesting, and it's interesting that it popped up right now for you.
yeah,
Hmm,
yeah.
okay, well,
And
that's really interesting.
yes, and hopefully nowadays I'm not as I have been doing a lot of this work, right? And so I am going with equanimity and trying to stay stable and not be
Mhm.
on the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll definitely get into that, as we go through this, but I love that word equanimity, and a lot of people, aren't I wasn't familiar with it before the Enneagram, and just that it means emotional balance, and I'm wondering when you first heard it, because I think a lot of fours, when they first hear something like that, they think or probably what the world has maybe the message it's tried to give you is tamp down your emotions or get rid of your emotions, which that's not what equanimity means. It means having your emotions, but more self regulated emotions, healthy emotions, highs and lows, being able to see it all. Does that feel more like it resonates with you?
Yeah, it's almost if you picture, the up and down and with that center line of being anchored to that centered
Mhm.
and be more observational of, oh, whoa, going up here. Oh, wow, going down here. And
Mhm.
Enneagram has given me permission that I don't have to go with it.
Mm. Interesting. Okay, so before did you feel like what I'm hearing is your internal world said you have to go with the highs and you have to go with the lows. Is that right?
Yeah, it was almost like, well, why wouldn't I? What's the
Mhm.
option? No, you can't, you have to, it's just like normal
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming
to
because authenticity is so important for the four that by, let's say, not going with it, did it in the past feel like you were being inauthentic?
that. I think that would be a fair statement, of just being, I'm going to go here because this is where I am.
Mhm.
And how could I be any different
Hmm.
than where I'm
Yeah.
at this moment?
That's so interesting. Okay, so now, of course, as we get older, hopefully we're all trying to grow, right, in life. I'm sure there's some people that don't grow, but as we've gotten older and mature and we've gone through lots of these different seasons, sounds like you've learned how equanimity is still authentically you, but more self-regulated. So what does that feel like as a 4?
Oh, wow. Um, I do have, and hopefully the positive sense of pride of going,
Mhm,
whoa, I don't have to go there.
mm,
And it feels really good if I'm around, um, let's say, my youngest child. And normally, what used to trigger me in the past, and I go ahead and respond from a more stable place and don't go emotional. I'm going, hey, hey, well done, buddy.
yeah.
it's pretty exciting, and it feels great to be doing that. That
Yeah.
I don't have to go on a ride just because my emotions go there.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it's not you, like, because 'cause you're still being you, even though you're able to be more self-regulated.
Yeah, I like me self-regulated a lot better than not.
Yeah, yeah.
Life's a lot more fun
Mm,
self-regulated.
interesting, I love that. Okay, so let's move to the core motivations. And the core motivations are that driving force behind why we think, feel, and behave. Um, and there's the core fear, which you're always running away from or trying to prevent from happening. You have a core desire, and this is like, oh man, if I just had this, like life would be like just the way I want it. The core weakness, this is the Achilles heel, the thorn in your side, that thing that keeps tripping you up and will until we go to heaven. But we do find if we're learning and growing some reprieve, but it's still going to be there. And then we have a core longing. This is the message our heart longs to hear and experience. So, do you mind reading all four of those, and then we'll kind of see what pops up for you, especially with maybe a circumstance that you're kind of feeling stuck in or struggling with?
Okay, super. Core motivations, core fear, being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, flawed, or insignificant. Core desire, being unique, special, and finding your authentic self. Core weakness, envy, feeling that you're tragically flawed. Something foundational is missing inside you, and others possess qualities that you lack. Core longing, you are seen and loved for exactly who you are, special and unique.
That's great. Okay, so what are you dealing with right now? And how is all of these kind of like maybe signals are going off in your mind like, "Oh my gosh, I can totally see how these things are happening."
Oh, well, one of the things when I look at the core fear, um, for me, I have always, for decades, for well over 40 years, I worked for companies where I provided help, support. I did was a church pastor for over 40
Mhm.
years, and then worked for a company helping post adoption with post adoption support. But then in 2021, I decided to go off at 63 years of age and start my own business to do post adoption support and do Enneagram coaching.
Yeah.
So that's that within that context, I have never ever ever had to ask somebody to pay me money for services that I've provided because the church
Oh,
paid me to do that. And then the company that I worked for, they paid me to do that. And so
interesting.
now I think core fear has something to do with that hesitancy of, well,
Mm,
inadequate, um, defective, flawed, insignificant. Who am I that I
mm,
should ask people to do that?
yeah.
To pay for my life experience and the resources I have. I mean, I do. I have a treasure trove of experiences and successes and failures to share, but it's pretty tough.
Mm,
I have to suppress a part of myself to go ahead and ask for that, to market
yeah.
myself. Actually, even just marketing myself. So the other part of that would be related is that if I stick my head up above the water and say I'm an expert or I'm really good at something like that, you know, if I put myself up too high, my head might just get lopped off.
Oh, by what?
I don't know, by somebody saying you're not all that, right? Or
Mm,
actually, there is no concrete what might go bad. It's just that feeling.
yeah. Well, and with the kind of the core fear of the sick, I mean, that's the 4. I wonder if it's like, well, if I put myself out there, but other people expose or see or say in some form or fashion that I don't really I'm insignificant or that I am defective and flawed or I'm missing something important. Does that kind of feel true?
Yes, see, that would be the getting lopped off if you get up too high, right? Then
Yeah,
people are gonna be if you expose yourself too much, you make yourself a bigger target for people going, "Up, defective, flawed, inadequate.
right.
You're not where
Which is your
you are."
greatest fear, and so
Yeah.
I mean, there's everything in you that is saying, "I don't wanna go close to that, so I'm gonna pull myself back away from that as much as possible." But what happens for you when you pull yourself too far back from that? Like, how does it inhibit you, or what are the consequences that you experience?
Well, the consequences are, the 2 professionally and personally. I mean, one is, um, that people who I really wanna help and would like to help don't get my resources, my knowledge, my compassion, or my connections so that they know that they're not alone in this
Yeah,
journey,
yeah.
right?
Which
And
is your
then
greatest gift.
yeah, it's which is real. So
Yeah,
that's a big consequence. And then of course, less income. If you don't market yourself, then people don't know about you. And
yeah. And
so
then when we look at, because I wanna pull the core desire in this in just a second, but when we look at the core weakness, which is envy, and again, it's that you're feeling that there's something tragically and flawed missing in you, that some other people have this thing that you're missing. And so I can imagine I've talked to other fours that are like, "Well, you know, I see that other people can do A, B, and C, but for some reason I can't. Like there's something wrong with me." And I'm so afraid of that being exposed and that it's actually true. So then I don't really, I'll pull back and like maybe do something else because I'm too afraid of maybe being exposed. And so it's that envy of, but see, everyone else has what I'm lacking. Does that ring true in this circumstance?
a little bit. I have to smile inside when you were saying that because I just the adoption foster conference, right?
Hmm.
At this year, there were a couple of my heroes there
Oh, uh huh.
speaking main stage and workshops and things such as that. And there was a little bit of that envy stuff of, oh
Mm,
man, I really, really want to be at their level so that, to be able to help more people and all of that. That is an embarrassingly strong feeling that I experienced that. And
yeah,
but I love them. They are fantastic. These are people who have been phenomenal for me over the
right.
years. And gosh, I'd like to be like them, but you know, I can't because I'm not as good as they are.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the refrain in the mind, right?
Yeah.
And then when you have that refrain in your mind, what happens internally, but also actually physically or action-wise? Like what comes out of that?
So for me, I feel all of that stuff right there.
Mhm.
And I almost there are many occasions that I get this, and this is one of those things. If I get triggered in that way, um, imagine something coming through my back and spreading out, and it's like a hook, and
Mhm.
it pulls me back. I mean, the pain is here, and it
Mm,
literally wants me to pull back and disengage completely and go, you
mm,
know what? Never mind. I'm not showing up at all.
mm. Wow. And then and then what happens after that? Because obviously you let's say you do follow and you pull yourself back. What happens next when you've withdrawn?
Nowadays,
Mhm.
I breathe
Ah,
and I get
okay.
centered.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I recognize what's going on. And so I do back off and
Mhm.
I go, okay, I think this is what we call the Enneagram type 4 envy.
Ah, okay, good, yeah.
Right? And so then you name it to tame it.
Yeah.
And so I spend time. Now, I am not fast to come back, but I recognize my current perspective is inaccurate. My
Mhm.
feelings are telling me all is wrong, woe is me. But
Yeah.
I've learned enough through this work to say, okay, I really can't trust my feelings in this situation. I've got
Mhm.
to do something to get myself back into what I call my upstairs brain, my thinking brain,
Mhm. Yeah.
because that my upstairs brain, my thinking brain is not binary.
Yeah.
Emotional brain is good, bad, but my upstairs brain is all of a sudden everything is more, there's more options. It's not
Yeah.
this or this, but there's more options. And a couple of times I've literally felt my brain go there and open up. Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
a couple of times. So recently I've got my oldest daughter is an Enneagram 4. And
Uh-huh.
so it was probably a couple days after that, but I told her about the incident of, yeah, this is what happened to me. And she goes, yeah, I get that. So I have a 4 who understands me.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I I've heard that fours always pretty much feel misunderstood, and so how relieving it can feel when you really thinks, "Oh, no, I think they really understand me." Is that true?
Yes, it's lovely.
Mm.
Well, and for me and this particular daughter, when I go ahead and confess that and she says, "Yeah," I mean, we end up laughing. It's like,
Oh,
"Oh,
really?
yeah. Oh, yeah." I mean, it which is delightful. It's,
Yeah.
"So let me tell you about this," and that's a little stereotypical Enneagram type 4, isn't it? And so we end up laughing
That's fun.
at that I had gone there.
That's fun. Okay, so as we move into the next segment, which is going to be kind of an overview of the type 4, we've really kind of honed in on the core fear, the desire, the weakness, and the longing. And I think, but we've kind of like put it all in the context of being a coach and putting yourself out there. And like, this is a whole new thing because in the past you were paid, just to do it. And so you just got to, be you. You didn't have to like create like the actual business part or market or find people to help, and then to ask them to pay for your services because, well, like, what am I gonna do with that? Like, are they going to? Do they want to? Am I worthy of that? So there's all of these fears and the weakness, but ultimately, you're looking for the ability to be your unique self, to show up, to be that creative self that can go into the spaces that people really struggle, and especially the work that you're doing with adoptive families in helping them to understand attachment, grief, and these different things that you've experienced. The creativity that you can bring in is so phenomenal. But you're doing all that also hoping that others will see you and love you or appreciate, kind of another word, for exactly who you are, this specially unique and creative person that helps them. Would that be a good kind of summary?
Yeah, that was really well said.
Okay, good. So as we take that into this next section, why don't you read, let's just say, go ahead and read the first three, so the big one, and then the next two paragraphs, the smaller ones, and then we'll read the last three.
Excellent. Okay. You bring a unique beauty, depth, creativity, and understanding to the world around you and embrace a wide range of emotions and experiences. You're in tune with profound despair and suffering and bravely press into those depths to discover rich meaning in all of life. You are eager to explore our complicated world in search of meaning and authentic connection, and desire to look inside yourself to find your unique significance and value. However, you feel burdened by a constant belief that you are alone and missing something important. Craving ideal circumstances or love, you often feel disconnected or fundamentally flawed. Struggling with feelings of envy, you compare yourself to others, believing that those around you possess the things for which you long.
So what stood out, positives and negatives? And
Yeah,
then kind
so
of like wrapping it around like this specific scenario that you're struggling with.
Yeah. This is the problem with the Enneagram, right? Is that you're throwing yourself out there and everybody knows, "Oh, whoa, that's
Yeah.
that's a little
Yep.
too vulnerable." So, one of the things, the positive
Uh-huh.
is in my unique field, there are a bunch of post-adoption support folks who are helping families, but
Mhm.
but they're not compared to the number of people who are suffering from
Oh,
the
sure. Yeah.
consequences of trying to promote healing in the lives of children that experienced abuse, neglect, trauma, all of that. So in my field, showing up with creative and insights, and here, let me tell you what I saw here. Let me tell you how I experienced that. Let me tell you where I blew it and I lost my mind. All of those things, people appreciate. They appreciate knowing where I made mistakes and I own that to them. They appreciate the insights. I said, well, this is what happened to me and it blew up in my face, so I tried this and it worked. And so folks are very, very grateful when I show up
Mhm.
for them. And most of the time people say instantly, pretty upfront. It says, it's nice to talk to somebody who gets it.
Mm. Yeah.
Nobody else understands this journey.
Yeah.
Family, my closest friends, my pastors, my church small group, they kind of tolerate me, but they don't get me and
Mm.
my circumstance. So that goes right into, the creativity and the beauty and the depth of, I know the pain of this journey, but I also know the joy and I'm able to give them hope as well. So
Mhm.
that's the positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what despair looks like. I don't know whether it's profound or not, but yeah, I know what hopelessness looks like. Um, and when I think of, you are eager to explore our complicated world in search of meaning and authentic connection. That's one of the things that the Enneagram has given me, is
Mm.
that it allowed me to name that and to go, oh, that's what I've been doing. Um, because that withdrawing thing of backing up, and because sometimes I've done that for a long periods of time, and tried to put the pieces together.
Mhm.
I guess that's positive too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
It can be of both for sure. Mhm.
um, so then jumping to the end of that third paragraph, struggling with feelings of envy, you compare yourself to others. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's just so real. And I have periods of that,
Yeah.
where I go
Mhm.
ahead and sit in that, and nowadays, luckily, I don't hang out there as much as I used to.
Yeah. Well, and where where do you think along the way it turned? And then well, actually, we'll get there because we're gonna go into this the more positive, part of this. So, let's have you read the last bits of this, and then I would love to explore how, as you've grown in just age and maturity and life experience, but also truth, and then helped your heart to steer in a different direction, like, what was that experience like for you? So, I'll let you go ahead and read.
Okay. When you attempt to find your unique significance apart from Christ, you can become self absorbed and temperamental. You are painfully self conscious, spending a great deal of energy ruminating on how different you are from others. Sorry, I laugh at the truth.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's fine.
you navigate feelings of self hatred and shame, along with emptiness and despair. You may feel anxious around others, always wondering what they think about you, perpetually seeing your weakness and never your glory. Beyond your internal strife, you can get into relational conflicts by being moody, emotionally demanding, withholding, dramatic, and volatile, causing you to appear self absorbed and disinterested in others. Preach. However, when you take the longings of your heart to Christ, you can step out from under the waterfall of your emotions. That's a really good line there. Um, and bring forth your gifts in extraordinary ways. You have a deep intuition into others' suffering and can shoulder their deep pains and feelings without being overwhelmed. It brings you great joy to connect with others on a deep level and to support them in their distress, which is a gift to the world.
Mm. So what stood out in you in this part, and I know you were just kind of saying, as you've grown older, the things that you've grown in, and I was curious to see, like, does this kind of paint some of that picture as well?
Yes, I mean these paragraphs very much identify the change. I
Mm.
am so aware of being self-absorbed, temperamental, self-conscious. You know, great deals of ruminating. It was described to me at the bottom of the Enneagram. There's that 4 and 5 with the gap
Uh-huh.
in between.
Uh-huh.
And getting caught feeling, thinking, feeling, thinking, feeling, thinking, and just getting lost in that gap, and sitting there for long times, long periods of time. Um, Navigating the feelings of self-hatred. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, shame, emptiness, despair. Um, then I just had to laugh with the beyond your internal strife. You can get into relational conflicts by being moody. Oh, so much.
Mhm.
I remember those times
Uh-huh.
with a great deal of embarrassment of of being moody around family, around friends, and going, dude, why did you do that? So, we do the best we can until we know better, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
Moody, emotionally demanding, withholding. I would do that in my marriage.
Mhm. Mm.
Way too dramatic and volatile, and self-absorbed. My wife once said to me, "You are the kindest self-absorbed person I have ever met on the planet." I remember where I was sitting on the couch. I mean, I have that. I mean, this was before Enneagram. She just,
Mhm.
she was just blown away by my self absorption, but she knew I was a kind person. It's like,
Yeah.
and she did not understand. Enneagram would have
Yeah.
been very helpful back then.
Sure, sure.
So,
Um, yeah, and so as you're kinda saying that, I am curious to kind of, like, unpack a few things. So and you've already done this work, so this isn't so much, bringing it to your attention as in, like, kinda summarizing, but if I miss anything, let me know, but, as the 4 being very can be very self-absorbed and focused on their emotions, and it's because they're so big and they feel so all-encompassing and that no one understands, and I also don't belong, and so I have to kinda deal with this by myself or try to convince people to understand, but then they never do, and then it just perpetuates this problem. And so but at the same time, so there's that wounded part of our heart, right? The wounded child that is like, no one gets me, no one understands me, I don't belong, I'm too much, I'm not enough. Um, and it really traps us in basically isolation versus the beloved child, the beloved part of your heart that knows what Christ has already done and accomplished for you, that he literally created you with all the uniqueness and the intricacies and how special you are and creative and how much depth you can have to reflect him in ways that are unique to you, right? So like Christ has great depth and emotions. I mean, he was so emotional at Gethsemane that he and so much anxiety that he sweat blood, and I've never done that, but he was able to be an authentic human while God. And fours can so quickly resonate with people in their hard places and stick with them in it. Like a lot of personality types, there's some personality types that can go there, but they don't want to stay there. They want to like help a person to like just move on. But what I'm hearing that you're saying with the work that you do is you are gifted naturally to not only be there with them in their grief and in their space, but to let them know you've been there too and how you've been there. And that is such a beautiful representation of Christ because he came to be with us, to let us know that we belong to him. Does this kind of summarize and paint a picture of what this is saying too?
Well, I I would have to say yes, because when you said that about the Christ-like showing up, right, in the midst of the hard and difficulty, so in my heart, it's yes, that's what I long for. And I don't even know if I do that adequately, of course, right? But yeah, that is the core. Uh, just a caveat on there is that there was a time when I had big feelings but didn't know it.
Mm. Okay.
I remember having a fight with my daughter in the kitchen, and she's an 8, so she's coming at me, right?
Right, right.
And then I realized, wait, I've only been home 5 minutes, and everybody else in the household is angry at me. Why is that? Why is everybody in such a bad mood? Could it be I'm in the bad mood? So I remember a time
Oh.
that I wasn't aware of my emotions, which is, I mean, at least those negative emotions. I mean, on
Mhm.
that day, I was not. And then I started to explore and become aware. So that was a helpful thing. And one of the things I also became aware of is that almost instinctively, sometimes I would, um, I would try to give advice too quickly in situations. And I think it was just a knee jerk reaction because I'm supposed to be a helper.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what I've discovered, again, with the awareness, is that if I don't have to.
Mm.
And why am I doing that? Well, because I want to help them right there. But then realizing, no, the helpfulness is to go ahead and sit there with them and ache
Yeah.
and maybe shed a tear for them. And then later on, even thinking about them and just, just being brokenhearted because some people are in just horrid circumstances and they're so
Yeah.
trapped. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and wouldn't you agree that most people don't want to go to those hard places or don't feel they could or should or like you said, like, "No, I should be helpful. I should get them out of this." But don't we all long for someone just to sit and listen to what we're experiencing and our pain without the fixing part? Like, just someone to come alongside us, and that's what you're gifted at. I mean, it's the natural bent of the 4, and it's such a beautiful quality. Do you do you sense that beautiful quality, or does the feeling inadequate and something missing, does that somewhat take away of the recognition of how great you are in that space?
I'm going to say it's 50-50 now. No,
Mhm.
no, but some days, because I do have remembering that time of still feeling inadequate, but
Mhm.
over time and the experience of realizing, wow, I simply just provided an incredible gift.
Yeah,
Um, and and I understand the logic of it because I have experienced it myself.
right.
My first friends, my first friends were podcast people who were
Mm,
in this situation. I'd never ever heard of parenting children from trauma differently than normal parenting. And I remember it was a podcast episode, and it was introduced the idea that that traditional parenting doesn't work with kids from trauma. And I'm going, wait, what? So for the very first time, I felt seen,
mm,
and I was told, you are not a bad person because you don't have the capacity or the skills to promote healing in the life of a child with ICU level emotional trauma and injuries. You're
yeah,
not a bad person because you don't know how to do this and because you don't have the emotional capacity.
yeah.
Now, since that time, I've built up the emotional capacity and the mental capacity and learned the skills and been through the fire. So in my mind, I know what it feels like when I show up for somebody who's there.
Mhm.
I know. And when they say, I so deeply appreciate this, I know that they're telling the truth because
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there, hopeless to hopeful.
Mhm.
I know what that journey looks like.
Yeah. And so as we, because that's so beautiful, and as we kind of wrap up this front part, I want to see, you had said at the beginning that in starting your kind of your coaching business, where you're having to ask people to pay for your services versus getting paid and just doing the job, like, you were kind of like, "Well, are people gonna pay for those services? Do I have what it takes?" But I think as you were just saying all that stuff right here, the beautiful stuff you were saying, I'm hoping, and that's why I wanna ask you, do you see how what you give as a gift is the very thing people are needing, and they're not only willing to pay, but they need that person, that coach, that guide that will sit with them in the dark, hopeless spaces to be their advocate, to be their support, to be their uh, fellow journeyman. Does that make sense?
So, okay, you're inviting me to go to my thinking brain.
Uh-huh.
Yes, 100% that makes sense.
Yeah,
Do you mind if I just push back a touch?
absolutely.
So there is, but I long for the world
Mm,
where everybody just has access to that,
yeah. Oh,
you know?
yeah,
That I do. So that's in the back of my that's that extra little thing that just hangs in there
yeah.
going, and I don't know if it's me fighting against it, but
No,
I do know that I do believe and trust that I have a gift that to offer to people.
yeah. Well, and so all 9 types actually long for the Garden of Eden in their own way. So
Thank you.
I long for peace and harmony, right? That's what I long for, and we had it. It's almost like we can each taste that part of the garden that we long for, and for the 4, they long for beauty, for depth, um, and so in wholeness and,
For
um
everybody.
yes. Because we all had it. And so your longing for that is actually a perfect representation of how God made you uniquely you to reflect him, because that's what he wants. And so you're only demonstrating, your heart's demonstrating the most beautiful one, I mean, not one, but there's many beautiful aspects of God, but one of his beautiful aspects. If you didn't have that longing as a 4, it would be surprising, because I think he put you here to have that longing, because and it's right for you to have that longing because it's no longer here at the level that we should have it. And so there's this rightness, this tension within you of the already but not yet, right? Like we already have his connection, his beauty, his depth, because he came and sacrificed himself for us, and he's here with us now. And yet it's not here completely. And it's the not yet part that we should be longing for, we should be desiring, and we need to bridge the gap for people with the gifts that we have. So I'm really good at being a great listener, non-judgmental, bringing peace and harmony, mediating circumstances. I'm really good at that. But I do struggle in a lot of the other areas that other types are really great at. And I would say even where you're really great at, I can do it for a very small portion of time. I long that I could do it more and better, but I am ultimately not created to do it at such a beautiful level that you can. And so I would push back and just say, I'm glad you long for everyone to have it, and that that's the tension within you, that you would rather them not have to pay, that everyone can have access to this. I think it would be a tragedy for you not to have that longing. Does that make sense?
Oh, a not only does it make sense, but it was actually very, very beautiful and touched on something. I mean, you reframed that. So you reframed what I was thinking, and you put that within the context of that is a longing and that is a good thing for you to have.
Yeah.
The already and the not yet.
Mhm.
Yes, of course you want that. And that's what God wants.
Yeah.
God wants that also. Um, and that is a holy longing.
Right.
But given my current circumstances, um, keep longing for that. Actually, that's what drives
Yeah.
me forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you are bringing that, even though you're one human and it's a bit by bit, it's still pushing back the fall in the way that you were designed, where you're passionate, where you're gifted at. And that's what I think God has called us in our professions to do, is to push back the fall where we can. Ultimately, He does the work, right? But
Right.
He gives us the gift to participate with Him in the way that we are created. And so that's why I love that you long for that, because then it motivates you to actually do the work, to push back, to be the person that will sit with people in their despair, with their hopelessness. Um, because most personality types can't. They don't. I always talk about how we each have our bodybuilder muscles, like the eights. They're really good at plowing a snow path, or like a path for us, like a snow plow. Well, not all types are the big diesel snow plow, right? They can maybe plow a little path, but so we have these like muscles, in certain categories where we're like the bodybuilders in that area. But then we have atrophied muscles in other areas. So for you,
Mm.
you are really strong in the emotional category, and to sit with people for long periods of time and their suffering, their grief, their ups and their downs, and not always having to fix it, but just to be there. Um, but then you're going to have atrophy in other categories. And so, yeah, we should work on the atrophy muscles, but I think God really wants us to show up where He created us to be our most um, strong, useful, courageous, what naturally flows out of us. And that's really just kind of what I see is going on for you. Though the hard part is that you feel for others, which is good, but you feel so much for others. It can also be something that can hinder you from actually moving forward. Do you find like sometimes your great emotions are also the thing, kind of like that withdrawal piece, that thing that, like the hook that pulls you back? Does that seem true for you?
That my emotions sometimes do that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, kinda like
that's
the longing is so great, and it feels like you can't do it, you can't bring it all to everyone, that it holds you back?
sometimes the longing is so great that I can barely stand it, and I do have to withdraw.
Yeah.
Sometimes that because the longing itself. I mean, being with people, it's not like being with people who are hurting. I could just do that forever and for always.
Mhm. Mhm.
It does take a toll. It's
Mhm.
just, I guess I would say I do. I just have more capacity
Yep.
to to hold it for longer.
Yeah.
But then eventually I do need it. It is too overwhelming, and so I do have to withdraw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily nowadays I don't have anybody demanding my time,
Mm.
so I can withdraw, and I don't have to show up
Yeah.
as much. I have to show up for my family,
Mhm.
but but I but the energy draw of showing up for my family is not as great as it once was.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well,
Otherwise, I
let's
would have been totally moody and self-absorbed with them.
um, yeah, so and I love that part. So let's use that and let's bring it into the backside of the guide sheet where we talk about Enneagram paths.
Yes.
And So there are 4 boxes here, and the first box is about your stress path. So you moving to the average, the unhealthy parts of 2, because the 4 is connected to 2, and in the symbol. And then the blind spot path. This is what you're like when you're only with your family, maybe a close friend, but this is, you moving in the average, the unhealthy parts of a type 1. But then we move into the growth path, and it's the same path. So it's you moving to the type 1, but this is where the Holy Spirit is really coming in and enabling you to live out that beloved child part of your heart. And we'll nuance all of these in a second. And then the last one, which is the hardest one because growth is hard, is the converging path. And this is where the 4 not only is healthy in their 4 space and their 1 space, but now they're taking on some of the healthy characteristics of the type 2. So let's walk through each of these. So why don't you read what it's like as a type 4 when you take on some of the characteristics of the average to the unhealthy 2 part.
Super. Stress path. The way you think, feel, and behave when under stress. Type 4 moves toward average to unhealthy type 2. And defend your hurt feelings by withdrawing attention, become over-involved and clingy to win affection, create dependencies by manipulating others to need them, and become possessive and need closeness with others.
Yes.
Um, so in terms of that, I have, in my experience, it's a slightly different flavor
Sure.
than that
Yeah.
when I go to 2. So for me, I um I can become over helpful
Mhm.
and trying to do and serving so much and just I guess over involved in things, but not necessarily to cling or win affection.
Okay.
What I've noticed myself is that I go ahead and overserve everybody around me so that at least for a period of time, nobody is going to need me.
Mm.
And I just want to earn some respite from everybody because I discover, and here's where I get kind of resentful,
Mhm.
is that if I go ahead and meet this child's need over and over and they ask for one more thing,
Yeah.
and it's like ungrateful. And so that's one of the things. But with my wife, I
Mhm.
would definitely sometimes become over involved and clinging. So if she took a step back, I
Mm.
would run towards her to go and do something to try and manipulate her to come back
Sure. Yeah.
and do that. But then, of course, in good for fashion, if she came and wanted to approach me and needed something from me, I might withdraw from her. So
Yeah. Kind of the
that
push pull.
dance, oh, push pull.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I love that you nuanced it for you because these guide sheets, I use them with, every type 4, the first guide sheet, but it's unique to you and your experience and the way you go about it. And obviously, the type 2, there's a plethora of things that you could have picked from. And I love how you made sure that it fit you and how you experienced that. Okay, so let's move into the blind spot path.
The way you behave around those with whom you feel most secure. Type 4 moves toward average to unhealthy type 1. Focus on flaws, becoming more vocal, judgmental, critical of others, and visibly display your disappointment. Become impatient, picky, and controlling. Criticize yourself for personal imperfections that leap out at you. Beth, I got to tell you, because this is gold.
Mm.
I don't remember how many months ago when I read this. I don't remember if it was in your book or the guide sheet, but it
Mhm.
blew my mind. because so I read this, right? And so it must have been last fall.
Okay.
Not
Mhm.
no, not this last fall, but before that.
Okay.
No, it was just last fall. We're watching football, August or September. That's where
Uh-huh.
this must have come. And I'm sitting with 2 of my adult daughters and 1 son-in-law. I'm sitting in the big comfy chair. My oldest daughter is sitting on the couch across the room with the dog. And I said something, I don't remember what I said, but all of a sudden she goes, "Dad, are you telling me the right way to pet the dog?" And I had just read this, right? And I'm going,
Uh-huh.
"Yes. Yes, I am." And then my next daughter, she goes, "Oh, that's nothing. He tells me the right way to give them treats."
That's awesome.
And I'm
And
going,
it's such a sweet way. It's not like a big thing, right? It's not like it's just pets, right? Like it's
"Right?
but it was able to come to your attention. I love that. That's so
Oh,
endearing.
it was so wonderful." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh." And then I said to my son, "You know what? I've discovered, son, that I can be perfectionistic when I'm with my family." And he rolls his eyes and goes, "Really? Never noticed that."
And that's what's so amazing about the blind spot path. That's why we call it the blind spot path we because it's actually the very things we really kind of distaste about that type that's outside us. So like for you, like when you see type ones being so judgmental, the four is typically like, just let people be them, like let them be their unique selves and very kind of embracing of all of the person, right? But what we don't realize is we actually do that same style in our own family life, but we don't even know it. But your son is like, you didn't realize this. And that's how it is for our family all the time. But it's so hard for us to see until it's laid out like this.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, most people are always like, this is the one that like their eyes open, like, oh my gosh, yes, that's true, but I never would have said it, you know?
Yep, that
Yeah.
was just amazing
How
stuff
has that
there.
how has that been then helpful in your relationships with your kids?
Um, One is several levels. On their part, one is acknowledging it and naming it, so they're willing to call me on it.
Yeah.
But most importantly is that I'm now aware of it and I recognize it sooner
Yeah.
when I'm starting to go and I just go, "Oh, nope." And I may end a sentence improperly and just quit talking and it's
Yeah.
awkward.
Uh-huh.
And and my son will say, "What were you going to say?" I said, "I was going down perfectionistic path and neither one of us want me to do that."
I love that. That is so good. So good.
And
And he's
so
probably like, "Yep, thanks."
it's good. Well, he does. And then he says, "But I am curious." I said,
Yeah.
"Nope, let's not."
Well, and okay, that's a great segue into the growth path because the growth path, which is right next to the blind spot path that we're talking about here on the screen, is going to the same number, but it's going to the healthy parts of type 1. So we actually want you to embrace the 1, but we just want you to be in a healthy space because it brings out the best of a 1, but through the lens of a type 4, right? So it's a mixture. So why don't you read that? Because ultimately, probably some of the things that you were maybe wanting to say to your son in that moment probably would have come out not so healthy or helpful, but I bet it could have been done in a healthy way and very beneficial to him too. So you read that and then let's
Huh.
explore that as
Okay.
well.
Growth path. When the Holy Spirit enables your growth. Type 4 moves toward healthy side of type 1. Become more emotionally balanced, objective, and principled. Embrace mundane tasks as opportunities to be a good steward, responsible, and organized. Become more disciplined, productive, focused on doing what is right.
So, with the scenario that you were going to say to your son, which would have come out more critical, what in it had wisdom in it, or truth, or rightness, or nobility?
Well, where I can say on that first one, become more emotionally balanced, objective, and principled.
Uh-huh.
So, in this particular case, and I've been able to repeat this numerous times through numerous conversations. And that is that emotionally balanced and objective and principled aspect is I have been taught that when I want to control my son and want him to go down a certain path, because It's better for him. It's better for people he's around. It's better for me. It's just all better. And it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer how much better it is. But what I recognize, balanced, objective, and principled, is that I've been taught that ambivalence is real and
Mm.
ambivalence is okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so I now what I've discovered is by keeping my mouth shut and being open to bigger possibilities and open to the spirit actually working on him,
Yeah.
that whole idea of I need to fix my kid now, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
panic, that fear-based thing, but trusting somehow, some way it's going to be okay. So what that allows me to do is when he says something ambivalent, where on the one hand, I really want to do this. On the other hand, obstacles to doing that and how he doesn't want to do that.
Mhm.
Now I can say, oh, yeah, I can see why both of those things are true. Well, guess what? He feels comfortable with me and he allows himself to continue to explore that.
Yeah.
And I am safe with he I don't he's safe with me. And so
Mhm.
he feels like he can continue to talk out loud and think through the paths that are ahead of him. Well,
Yeah.
wow, that's wonderful because all of a
And
sudden, yeah, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, and that's the 4 in you. I mean, that literally is because with our kids, like, that's the whole thing with the blind spot path is this other part of us wants to, like, jump in because, like you said, it's like we kinda just want to fix the problem and move on or, like, like, we're so geared to fixing problems, and not being bothered by our kids so much. That's, like, the less healthy part of ourselves, but the beautiful part of the 4 is that 4s champion the person in their own growth path, like their own journey, like them uncovering themselves and learning and growing. And so the healthy part of the 1 is enabling you to um, be that part, but also principle. Does that make sense?
I think it was a beautiful way to say that. That is okay. I wouldn't have seen it, but now that you say it and
Mhm.
connect that of I'm going full on one principled objective, and then all of a sudden, the healthy parts of my 4 of that compassion of letting my son walk the journey that he's supposed to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
a
you
beautiful
I'm assuming you do
connection.
that with everybody else outside of the family pretty easily. Would that be right?
Well, let's say easier.
Yeah, yeah, okay, easier. It's more natural for you as a 4 outside of the responsibilities of a parent
Oh, yeah.
to sit with the next person and to allow them to be ambivalent, to allow them to kinda go through their journey as you're supporting them, as you're bringing wisdom and insights and guidance, but you're not as rocked to the core as we are as parents.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the fact that you're now doing it with your son is the most beautiful thing because most kids are like, they'll see their parents out and about doing what they're really gifted at with everyone else, and they're like, "Why don't I get that person?" But you're giving him that person.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Thank
so
you.
then let's go to the converging path because so when you're at this place of growth path, so going to the healthy parts of 1 and you're using the healthy part of 4, then the hardest part, but the most beautiful part is bringing those 2 things and the healthy part of 2 all together. That's why we call it the converging path. So why don't you go ahead and read that one?
As transformation takes place, you can transcend to this level. Type 4 moves toward healthy side of type 2. Selflessly support and care for others without needing attention on yourself. Express gratitude for what you possess instead of longing for what is missing. Openly affirm the positive qualities others possess.
So what comes to mind with that?
That I don't go here as often.
Mhm. It's hard. It's so hard.
um, One of the things but awareness once again is the thing,
Yep.
is that there were several times this weekend at the conference where I chose somebody's telling me something that's going on in their life, right?
Mhm.
And I just want to barely go over the line and let them know a little bit of something about me, so to that will hopefully prompt them to say, okay, this guy gets it. I'm going to keep talking, because I recognize there have been times when I've gone a little bit too far, and all of a sudden I'm starting to make it about me.
Okay,
And
yeah.
the story gets too long is the difference there. So
Yep.
this weekend, I literally shortened my end of the story and was aware of it, and just consciously went ahead and said, okay, just give them just enough to prompt them to talk.
Right. And what
And
happened?
they kept talking, and it was
Mhm.
lovely, right? They
Yeah.
trusted me a little bit more.
Yep.
And now that wasn't coming naturally, right? Because I'm having to practice
Yeah. Oh,
going to
absolutely.
that
Sure.
healthy side of 2.
Mhm.
But I was pretty pleased
Yeah.
that I was, number 1, aware of it.
Yep.
Thank you, Enneagram, and you describing this converging path.
Mhm.
Um, and and therefore, you might say, I was able to actually show up for them in my full forness,
Yep.
and actually be a blessing, be a healing force, be an instrument of God's peace in their life,
Yep.
because I was able to practice a little bit of doing
Yeah.
that convergent
Because
path.
you are created uniquely. You are created to express and to bring about beauty. And you are created, and this is what's so interesting, and I really try to help people understand this, is there's a spectrum of being others focused and self focused. Usually, I would say in our life, but especially in the Christian world, it's like, oh, you shouldn't be self focused at all. You should only be others focused. So then like type fours and threes and eights and sevens, especially, can be at times unfortunately categorized in this self-absorbed place, for their own reasons. And then all the other types are like, oh, but they're so selfless, or, whatever, self are focused on others. But it's a spectrum. Like for me as a nine, I can get so others focused that I am highly codependent, and it is not healthy for me and others. I have got to learn how to be more in the middle, where it's both self focused on the healthy things. Jesus was self focused, he took great care of himself, but he also was others focused. And so that balance between the two. And that's really what I'm hearing here, is that you need to be self focused. And you were really good at that, in the sense like that's a strength that you have. But where you were self focused here was to the recognition that you can have a tendency to take the conversation too far into your domain and leave them out. And so you were self focused enough to go, oh, wait, that's not actually what my goal is. That's not helpful here. But I'll give just enough to open the door for him to walk through, for him to explore and to talk about his self. And that helped him to navigate whatever it is that he was doing. So, yes, that was the perfect bringing the one in. So, you're being principled, you're grounded, you're balanced, but enough of the four where you're able to share yourself, but enough restraint to focus on him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I appreciate you painting that picture of what was going on.
Yeah.
That's very affirming.
Yeah, and then that's what's so great, is that you get to do this over and over and over again with all of your coaching clients. Now, yes, life ebbs and flows. We're healthy, we're not as healthy, but ultimately, God is giving you these parts and your healthy part four to really show up for people in such amazing and beautiful and dynamic ways. And it's only our false thinking, our self doubts, our limiting beliefs, head trash, whatever you want to call it, that we think is true, but hinders us. And actually, that's the last part of this guide sheet that I want to cover, is that we have many internal messages and false messages, but this is one that really feels true to each type. And it really can derail us. So for you as a type four, it's if I'm authentic and true to myself, then I'm okay. Does that feel kind of a natural uh, uh, message that is floating in your mind, even if it's kind of on low volume in the background?
Well, this is an area where I'm not very well developed in Enneagram yet.
Okay.
I think I told the story of sometime well, I told the story of not being always aware of my emotions,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so my brain has not I don't if I'm authentic and true to myself, then I'm okay. And I do not have awareness of that. I'm
Mhm.
confident that it's true, but I'm that first question, what
Yeah.
exactly does it mean to be authentic and true to yourself? And how do you know when you've arrived at this point? I'm going, yeah, that's a great question.
Right.
See, because I haven't had it what does it mean to be authentic and true to myself? Um, and yeah, I still don't know.
Right. And but that's okay, so, like, for us as 9s, ours is if everyone else is good and okay, then I can be good and okay. Well, you're a dad, you know that people are not good and okay, like, ever. So that means a 9 can never be good and okay. And that's kinda sad if it were actually true, right?
Yeah.
I would have to live in a constant state of, "I'm never okay, no one else is ever okay," and and that's just not true. I can be okay even if others aren't okay. That doesn't mean I'm, like, happy about it, um, but I can be okay. I can be self-regulated. I can be sober-minded. I can move towards people and not have their world all consumed with mine. I don't have to
Mm,
merge. I don't have to be codependent. I don't have to be a doormat. And so but everything inside me wants to say, "No, I have to have everyone else peaceable and happy, then I can be peaceable and happy." And it's just not true. And so, like, for you, if I'm authentic and true to myself, then I'm okay. And that's why I put these kind of contradictory questions to kind of prompt, well, then for me, well, when is it that everyone's okay? Like, when is that actually, what does that look like? When does that happen? When can I actually rest or feel okay? And so I think these are really good, great questions. And as you become more aware of this statement and kind of listening for it in the background, because sometimes it's on, low volume, sometimes it's blaring, but as you become and maybe change the wording to fit, how it shows up in your world. That might actually be beneficial for you too. But
yeah.
then ask these prompting questions and kind of like push back on it, not in a negative way, but in a self-freeing way. Like I I I am gonna be authentic. I mean, as a 4, you are authentic, but there's times that, you know what, you're gonna have to show up and maybe kind of toe the line of the culture, and that's not gonna feel great, but you're gonna be okay, and it's gonna happen. Um,
Ooh.
does that make s oh, where did that hit?
Um, and this is just like if this is almost just like a surface thing, but it's almost like you just skated across the surface of something when you talk about, see, there are certain situations that, okay, the longing for wholeness and beauty and peace in the world.
Yep.
Um, so
Okay, wait. So put that in this statement. Say, "If I have wholeness, beauty," and what was the other thing?
I don't remember. So we'll just go
Yeah.
wholeness and beauty.
Then
Um,
I'm okay.
if I have wholeness and beauty that transforms those around me, then I'm okay. And here's what I mean by that
Yeah.
is you had mentioned that longing thing
Mhm.
for the world being
Mhm.
at peace and beautiful and not, let's face it, it's ugly sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I do struggle with just saying it's okay where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to live in this world that is not okay.
Mhm.
Where children grow up in poverty and abuse and in homes where people are just trying to deal with their stress and their trauma
Yeah.
with addiction and cannot take care of the children. They may love their children with a fiery passion, but they can't make decisions to save their kids' lives.
Mm.
Um, so there is a part of me that wants to show up in such a state of wholeness and beauty and compassion that everything changes around. Okay, the serenity, no, the prayer of Saint Francis,
Mhm.
make me an instrument of your peace. My deep longing is to be such an instrument of God's peace so that it's transformative and the ripples,
Yeah.
go out and bring peace. Okay, I'm really beating around the bush on this one because
Well,
this is
because
a
you 'cause
tough
you're
subject.
well, yeah, and you're also exploring it kind of for the first time, so that's great. So keep
Yeah.
going.
So, huh. Okay, so what is exactly does it mean to be authentic and true to yourself? Um, I want I want to be I don't want to be inadequate. I want to be so filled with beauty, the wholeness, the compassion
Mhm.
that it's transformative, that
Mhm.
just showing up changes the world in a positive way. And what that means, the other piece of the 4 that I'm putting next to that is, let's face it, I am not beautiful and powerful and whole and
Mm.
complete enough to make that happen.
Mm. Yeah. So that's
I
another
am
kind of
inadequate.
false, yeah, so another false, so that's because this is a false statement, and then that's another false statement that comes in to kind of prove or double down.
But but I think you would also agree, if I change the angle and look at it from a bigger a different perspective, technically,
Mhm.
in my walk with Jesus,
Yeah.
literally all I have to do is be the seed that was sown.
Right.
And all I have to do is sow seeds of beauty
Yep.
and compassion and wholeness. And it's God who gives the growth.
Yeah.
That great Mark Matthew 13 story of the sower, right?
Mhm.
Technically, all I have to do is show up and sow those seeds of love and peace and wholeness and completeness,
Yep.
and beauty. And that's enough. And then I can just let it go and trust that somehow, some way, God's going to make it okay.
Exactly. And that comes all the way back to everything we've kinda talked about, where you feel inadequate, something's flawed, something's missing that other people have, but you don't. And yet you long to give the most of yourself that is so beautiful, compassionate, and can come alongside people that in some ways, in a sense, you're kind of saying, so I can save them, which is a great desire. Like we want people to be whole and to flourish. But what you just said at the end was, huh, but though God has given me the gift to be there with people, He is their ultimate savior. I get to sow the seeds and He gets to do the nurturing, the watering, the growing. And so it's the both and, right? It's you get to be imperfectly perfect for the people you're serving, but God gets to be the perfect one that brings the salvation, the redemption, the wholeness, the beauty that they need. And you get to let go of that ultimate responsibility and literally just thrive in being how He created you to be, which is special and unique.
So good. So good.
Does this feel like, if we kinda bring this all back around where you're feeling maybe a little stuck in kind of putting yourself out there and needing to kind of bring in, the money to support yourself, that it is a gift to give of yourself, but also it's a gift for you to receive their gift of payment to have the life, just pay the bills and all those things. Like God has given you this give and take from others as a means to enjoy how He has created you to be.
And to trust
Yeah,
that it very well may be that God is going to provide families with the resources they need
right,
so that they can um, request that I come walk alongside them.
right.
Right. And so that is ultimately a trust in God for daily bread,
Yeah,
right? Is
yep,
that I may have a picture in my mind of how I want God to provide my daily bread,
yeah,
but I'm not in charge of that, am I?
right. And it's a form of trust, it's a form of dependence on Him to see Him provide, not just for yourself, but for them too. And all of us, when we quote unquote put skin in the game, we actually show up and we transform more than if it's just given to us. And that could be the very way that God has these people that you're going to be working with to grow. Um, Now it's noble and it's wonderful that you would love for like money just to pour from the sky and you could just serve all day long. But like yeah, exactly. But God has also said, "In this season, and what I want you to do, this is how it needs to happen."
Mm.
And so you get to actually be whole. You get to actually experience beauty and compassion in a way that isn't necessarily the way you would choose it, but it's actually gonna be the best thing for you and them.
In this day, in this time, in this space, this is the way I get provided for by God.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
And it is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I hope that this has been helpful kind of bringing it all around and kinda seeing how beautiful God has created you, and uniquely He has put these different gifts and talents in you so that you can and get to show up in the people that you're serving, which are in such need of what you have to offer. Your experience, your sorrow, your grief that you've already gone through and worked so hard at, they need you, and God is giving you that opportunity. I just think, wow, what a blessing, and just how beautiful it is. And I'm just really, really excited for how much you have grown, the awareness you have, implementing it not just in your life outside of home, but to implement it at home. For most people, that's a whole new level. And it's exciting to hear how it's already reshaping your dynamics with your kids. So I just say kudos to the work that you're doing and keep going.
Thank you. This has been a lovely journey, this hour together of how the pieces have all been weaved together,
Yeah.
woven together. This has been a delightful experience.
Well, thank you, Greg, for just being here, being authentic, being real. And you'll have to give me some updates and emails. Like, I can't wait to hear what God does for you and those that you get to bless. So be sure to send me the updates.
Okie doke.
All right.
I
Thanks.
can do that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope today's session really got to show you a positive change in someone's life when using the Enneagram in a really good way. And as always, remember the Enneagram reveals your need for Jesus, not your need to work harder, because it's the gospel that transforms us. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.